What is going on, YouTube? So, kind of wanted to shift gears back to just general basketball, college football to round out the day for YouTube. Um, and one of the subjects that I wanted to talk on and have for a while now is the Russell Westbrook, James Harden dynamic and the trade rumors with the Houston Rockets. Houston Rockets have undergone a lot of shifts this offseason. This is a team that uh, played pretty well, but they ran into a Lakers team in the second round of the playoffs that was just a lot better than them. Um, the Rockets just in general have done a lot to move the game of basketball forward. They are the definition of moving the game into the pace and space small ball era. But now that Daryl Morey's out of the equation, that Mike D'Antoni's out of the equation, there's rumors that the Houston Rockets could move on from Russell Westbrook, even James Harden. Now, the James Harden rumor, I think, while I think there's probably been discussions and they're willing to field offers, and hey, if something good enough comes along, why not hear out any trade offers? But I think the more likely scenario with them would be them shipping off Russell Westbrook. Um, obviously, Westbrook's probably not going to be an integral part of the Rockets' future, depending on how much they're looking to rebuild or just kind of retool around James Harden. But Russell Westbrook has, he started to turn it on toward the end of last season. But given that there's just a completely new coaching staff coming into the mix, and that for most of the season he wasn't anything close to what he was in a lot of his heyday with the Thunder, and obviously that was pretty costly to the Rockets. This is also, a contract that is very, very large for the next like 3 to 4 years. Russell Westbrook's current deal pays him no less than 41 million for each of the next 3 seasons. He does have a player option heading into the 2022-23 season, but if he picks that up, he's getting about 46.6 million. And again, this was all when he re-signed back with the Rockets, got a contract extension a few years ago. Now, obviously, you could see why the Rockets would want to get that contract off their cap sheet if they don't, if they don't have any plans for Russell Westbrook moving forward. It's not necessarily a bad situation to have him on your team, but it's something where you get a lot more flexibility to rebuild around James Harden if you would like to, or if they just want to tear everything down and start from the top, then that's certainly an option too. Now, I do want to talk on, before I get into the specific reasons why I think that it would be best if the Rockets kind of dumped off James Harden. For one, they've got some new lead voices in the front office: Raphael Stone, the new general manager, and Stephen Silas taking over as the new head coach. The specific philosophy for which they will be going for, I'm not entirely sure, because free agency, trade market, NBA draft have not begun yet. Those come around next week. I believe free agency like next Sunday. Now, so with Steven Silas, you're probably going to have more of a well-rounded team, or at least a more even-keeled team toward what you would see for a traditional NBA team. You're not going to be seeing, Robert Covington play at the 5, I would assume. Now, Russell Westbrook is going to be a personality where, if you're trying to rebuild around James Harden, might make things a little bit more difficult. By no means do I think he's going to be problematic in the locker room, similar to maybe like a Kyrie Irving situation in Boston. But that is certainly a risk. Now, Russ did, like, statistically, he was decent during the 1920 season, averaged around 27 points per game, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. Shooting percentages, finishing around the rim got better. He was taking a lower volume of shots from 3-point range, which is weird when you land with the Rockets, but that was good on their part. But he was still taking around 4 3-point attempts per game, shooting just above 25% from beyond the arc. About 47% from the field, though, which is better than his career average, around 44%. Again, that volume got a little bit better. But if the Rockets are going to look to build around James Harden, and they want to maybe make a pitch for one of the big free agents come 2021 free agent cycle, which I think is realistic, you're not going to be able to do as much if you've got Russell Westbrook on your cap sheet still. Now, they're obviously going to have to part ways with a few other pieces if they want to be able to dump that contract. I don't know which teams would be really willing to take on that money. There's been ideas out there that the Knicks are a potential landing spot. I know that at least for Chris Paul, the Clippers have been talked about. The Knicks and the Bulls are very often considered in those discussions. And maybe the Bucks, since they've been talking about that. In terms of taking on that money and future draft picks, I would assume that the Knicks are going to be a really commonly mentioned team, just because Russell Westbrook might at least be able to pull them up to like an 8 seed. But I don't know if he's going to want to do that at this point of his career. And I don't know if the Knicks are going to want to take on that big of money or that much money when they were, the way they handled the 2019 free agent cycle. They signed, once they figured out they weren't getting Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, they signed all these, 1-2 year deals that came off the books heading into the next offseason's free agent cycle, so that they would be able to appeal to the bigger free agents. And if you land Russ, some of that possibility might go away. But back talking to the Rockets' point of view, this is a roster that is probably going to look a lot different heading into next season. James Harden, again, I think will still be the star that you're building around. I don't see much of a reason to ship him off right now, again, unless there's just an unbeatable deal out there. But you do bring back a few solid pieces of the roster, again, depending on what they're looking to do. You can bring back PJ Tucker. You can bring back Robert Covington. Eric Gordon's on the books for quite a while. So you still have a decent supporting cast there. But you have the opportunity in this cycle of free agency, and then depending on how you want to dig into the trade market, to add some pieces around Harden, or maybe just give the cap sheet more flexibility. The two main reasons why I think the Rockets should trade Russell Westbrook: one, I just don't know how he's going to fit in with the scheme and with the new front office, the new coaching staff. And two, I just think that you have the opportunity here to appeal with kind of a new face to the franchise, or not necessarily a new face to the franchise, because James Harden will still assume that role, again, assuming they don't trade him, but kind of a very new look to the franchise with Daryl Morey gone. I just think that getting rid of Russ's contract, if you have the opportunity to get any of the big free agents next offseason, is very much worth it. James Harden heading into probably what will soon be the back end of the prime years of his career. You want to give him probably one last chance to contend, especially considering, these are going to be some of the last years of LeBron. There's this balance of power that could shift soon in the Western Conference, maybe going from, someone like a LeBron James or a James Harden down to like a Luka Doncic. And that's going to be something we witness here in the next couple of years. I believe James Harden is about 31 years old. Yeah, 31 years old. So again, I don't know how much longer you have of him being one of the best players in the NBA. So anyway, that is pretty much it. Again, I wanted to touch on just a few aspects of the Russell Westbrook situation. Well, I will pay very close attention to that as that story continues to develop heading into the NBA draft, when there will be a lot happening here in the NBA in the next couple of weeks. Also, I'm going to try to work on kind of an NBA season preview series. It's going to have to be a lot packed into a few weeks, just because training camp's set to start on December 1st. The 2020-21 regular season set to tip off on December 22nd. You have free agency beginning on the 22nd of this month, the NBA draft on the 18th. You have trades sprinkled in between. You've already got rumors of like Chris Paul and discussion, or the Chris Paul trade discussion between the Thunder and the Suns. So there's a lot to watch here in the coming weeks. But anyway, that's pretty much it. See ya.